So last week on the program, Congressman Chris Smith of New Jersey and I had a discussion about the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees, or UNRWA. Now, this is an entity from the United Nations that the U.S. has poured billions of dollars into. Now, this was established back in 1949, and UNRWA was supposed to be a temporary international solution to the Palestinian refugee crisis. But it has become a permanent political and diplomatic entity that has not only kept Palestinians stateless, it has poisoned generations with anti-Israel, anti-Semitic indoctrination. Now, keep in mind, UNRWA gets about $1 billion. Their annual budget's about $1 billion. That's a lot of money. 58% of this is earmarked for education. What kind of education? Well, audits of the educational material, which include children's TV programs that are funded by UNRWA, teach children to loathe Jews. They question, it calls them to question the very existence of the Jewish state of Israel. It justifies jihad and terrorism to promote, it promotes martyrdom in the name of jihad. Now, in 2018, as a result of disinformation and the work of conservatives, the Trump administration eliminated U.S. funding, tax dollars, to UNRWA. Now, that decision was reversed last year by the Biden administration as they not only restarted U.S. contributions, but the Biden administration gave them additional tax dollars. Now, I first learned of this situation probably about 12, 13 years ago when I helped coordinate congressional trips to Israel. And we would go over and we would meet with government officials, non-governmental leaders, religious and civic leaders. And one of those individuals that briefed us on how U.S. tax dollars were being used to indoctrinate children, it was shocking. I just say it was, in fact, last week I had Senator James Lankford. He was in the House at the time. He was with us on one of these trips. It was shocking, and he's been one of the ones that has consistently worked on this. But this indoctrination was teaching children to hate Jews, and as I said, deny the very existence of the state of Israel. Well, with me now to talk about this, Itamar Marcus. He's the founder and director of Palestinian Media Watch, and he joins us from Israel. Itamar, good to see you. Welcome back to Washington Watch.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you.
And just know that our listeners and viewers here in the United States are praying for our friends in Israel as this is unfolding, even as we speak here tonight. But we are we're praying for you, and I know you have members of your family that have been called up to the IDF to serve. And just know that there are a lot of folks here in the United States that care deeply about what's happening over there.
Thank you very much. We very much appreciate all the American support and our friends in America.
So, Itamar, you first exposed me to what was happening through the Palestinian Authority and through the monies coming through UNRWA, and you've documented a decades-long pattern of the Palestinian Authority's promotion and glorification of terror, indoctrination, anti-Semitism. Tell us what you have been tracking all of these years and where it stands today.
Well, we've been tracking our first report on Palestinian school books, believe it or not, was in 1998. And they were filled with poison. At that time, I was representing Israel in negotiations with the Palestinian Authority and on incitement, and Americans were also in the negotiating committee. And I remember when we brought the school books report to the committee, the American representative said, I read this material and I wanted to vomit. It's just unimaginable. This was 1998. Americans condemned it then, and the United States continued funding the Palestinian Authority year after year after year, knowing what was happening already then. And we kept doing new reports, and we kept reporting on their messages to kids. I have to even say we did a report in 2007, which I decided to release in the Senate. And I turned to Hillary Clinton. I wanted a Democrat. I didn't want someone who would be automatically pro-Israel. And she appeared at a press conference with me in the Senate. And she said the words, After my presentation, she said, the Palestinians are profoundly poisoning the minds of their children. And that was 2007. I call the Palestinians who are running through the streets today, murdering Israelis, the Hamas, as well as the Palestinian Authority, Fatah people, the mainstream, they are the poisoned generation. They were brought up on hate, on demonization. And that's what we have today. And as you said, and as I said, the Americans funded this right up until the Trump administration.
So, Itamar, that's the reason I'm talking about this, because Americans are shocked at the information that has come out at what happened in this invasion of Israel by terrorists, Hamas terrorists, and what they did, the brutality, the just what I've described here in this program multiple times as demonic, what they did. But we shouldn't consider this in a vacuum, and that's why I want to have this conversation with you. This has been decades in the preparation. When you teach the type of stuff, and I want you to give us some examples of what is contained in these textbooks that would cause people to see Jewish people as subhuman, allowing them to do what they did to babies, to women, innocent civilians.
Well, I'll just have to give you a quote. You talk about subhuman. Just a few months ago, an advisor to Mahmoud Abbas. Mahmoud Abbas is the head of the Palestinian Authority. He's seen as the moderate. He has a personal advisor on Islam, and he went on TV. His name is Mahmoud al-Habash. He went on TV and he said that the Jews have been the enemies of Islam since the beginning of time. Literally, he says since the time of Adam, which of course is ridiculous, but that's what he said. And then he said, today, the Jews are fighting with Satan. And more than that, when you see a human and a Jew, it actually might be Satan in the form of a human. Satan in the form of a human. So when you talk about dehumanizing, he literally said it, that the Jews are subhuman. Another talk he gave a little while back, and he said that the Jews are humanoids. Humanoids, creatures that Allah created in the form of humans, but aren't really humans. So you've got the top religious figure in the Palestinian Authority. He gives almost all the sermons on Friday, and his message is that Jews are actually subhuman, either Satan or animals, but they're humanoids. So of course you can kill them. We've had another religious figure repeatedly talking on TV about humanity will never be able to live with them, which is why at the end of time, Muslims will fight the Jews and kill them, leading to the Jews' extermination. And then humanity will be safe after the Jews are exterminated. Now, you have to understand what this means. This means that the Hamas fighters, terrorists who went into Israeli towns and were killing children and infants, they believed because of Palestinian Authority teaching, they believed they were doing a service to humanity. They believed that they were bringing the redemption closer because they were eliminating Jews from the world. This has been Palestinian. The first time we heard this message from the Palestinian Authority, this was before the turn of the century. We heard it in 1999, 2000, and it's continued until today. Kill Jews, you're saving humanity.
This is in the textbooks.
And it's in the textbooks because what they do is they quote a hadith. There's an Islamic tradition attributed to Muhammad. It's part of Islamic law. And it goes as follows. I'll quote it to you. It says, the hour of resurrection won't come until Muslims fight the Jews and kill them. Jews will hide behind rocks and trees, and the rocks and the trees will say, Muslim, servant of Allah, there's a Jew behind me, come and kill him. We have seen this in the textbooks. We have heard it from sermons. What they're saying, the hour of resurrection, the end of time, the redemption of humanity is contingent on the extermination of Jews. And the Palestinians, in this case, tragically, are a very religious people, with 95 to 98% of them saying that religion is important to them. So you've got all these people believing that Allah wants them to kill. I have to point something out. When they were running through the streets and murdering Israelis, a lot of the films showed them yelling the words, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. That means Allah is the greatest. That is also screamed out from the mosques when they are having worship, Allahu Akbar. They felt that the murder of Jews was worship of Allah. That's how outrageous this is, and that's why they were killing Jews.
Itamar, we talked about this. The U.S. is funding. We fund UNRWA. We fund the Palestinian Authority. In fact, just in June of this year, an additional $153 million was given from the United States to UNRWA, to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for the Palestinian refugees. And as I pointed out at the top of the program, about 58% of this goes into education. They also have television programs, kids programs, that also are used to indoctrinate children.
Absolutely. We've heard children's programs on Palestinian Authority official TV, owned and controlled by the PA, where children have said they've learned in school to hate the Jews and kill them. We've had many, many chants on children's programs where they talk about the Jews being the descendants of apes and pigs. We've had the same quote over and over again. The Jews are descendants of apes and pigs. And one of the worst things that they've taught these kids is that they should go out and die for Allah. That if they go out and they get killed fighting for Islam and fighting against Jews, and they're killed, that's the best thing that can happen to them. Instead of seeing death death as something terrible, they've told the kids that death is actually something admirable.
But death in pursuit of violence, of destroying the lives of others.
Exactly.
I mean, that's different than even from our Christian faith, where Jesus said, "Greater love hath no man than to lay down his life for his friends." It's not dying to take someone else's life. It's dying to save someone else. This is the reverse of that. They're being taught to go and kill people, and it's glorified if they die in that process.
In the last year, we have probably had 10 examples of children under 15 or around 15. We had one 14 who left farewell letters telling their parents that they didn't want them to cry over them and that they should be happy over their death. And they went out grabbing a gun, grabbing Molotov cocktail. They went out when Israeli soldiers were around, hoping to be killed. We know this because they left farewell letters. We have had not 10, but we've had dozens and dozens of parents on TV in the last year, literally dozens, who've said, "My son sought martyrdom. He achieved it. Praise Allah, my son achieved martyrdom." By the way, this is something shocking. Everybody thinks it's a joke that that Palestinians talk about the marrying the 72 virgins in paradise. Well, so many of the mothers whose sons were killed have gone on TV and said, "I'm very happy for my son. I'm going to accompany him to his wedding." There was a grandmother of a terrorist who said that before he went out on his attack, he showered, put on his best clothes, put on cologne, and went out hoping to die. He literally dressed up as if he was going to a wedding. So in the West, we think it's a joke. But the Palestinians take this seriously. These teenagers who've never been with a girl in their life because of Islamic law, they are going out there hoping to have 72 women who are going to be theirs, and they're literally preparing themselves and going out to die.
Itamar, we're out of time. Just one other point I wanted to make, and that is that in this education, Israel isn't even on the map. They're taught that Israel doesn't even exist. So how can peace be brought forward when they're denying the very existence of the Jewish state? Very quickly.
It can't be. They deny Israel the right to exist as state, and they deny Jews the right to exist as individuals. Those two together make this impossible.
And we're paying for it. Itamar Marcus, thank you so much for joining us. We continue to hold you up and all of our friends in Israel in our prayers.